All right, Destiny, Yo Destiny. You notice what I'm
Yeah.
calling you to KD, friend of the podcast, friend of the channel, friend of the
Hmm.
life. That's how I discovered that y'all were best friends. She was like, Jess, you know that Destiny. I was like, Yo Destiny. She was like, Yo Destiny is my best friend. I was like,
Oh, wow, that
oh my,
is, I didn't know that. I figured it happened the other way. Like she said, introduced you to me on that. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love that so much. She actually wrote the foreword for the book. I'm really excited about that.
okay,
Yeah.
fine. Let me, because
Mhm.
you and I are yappers.
Yes.
We are
Wait, can
yappers.
I say that? Because I'm not nervous at all because we talked before and I love having conversations with creatives. They fuel me, they kind of like light me up, right? They bring me clarity into my own life. The only thing that I'm afraid of is I have a tendency to overshare. Like I will tell you, like if I'm like really feeling the vibes, I will tell you some shit that you don't know. And then a day later, I will wake up with what Brene Brown calls a vulnerability
Vulnerability
hangover,
hangover.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is out on the internet for people to see. So I have some notes so that I one don't do that, and then two so that I don't go off on a tangent because I am a long-winded ass motherfucker. I will talk. I like talking, which is really cool because I am introverted. You know what I mean? I love to be in my house, but once you get me going about something that I am interested in, it's hard for me to stop. So
Okay, well, we
there's that.
have a hard stop because you have to go watch Love Island with your
Yes,
baby.
yes,
So
yes,
I will
yes.
keep us on track. Okay,
Sounds good.
so let's start here.
Mhm.
Tell my audience who you are, what you do, and why.
Yeah. I love that this is the first question because the first chapter in my book, This Probably Why Short Stories and Exercises on Why We Are the Way We Are, is about how that question used to make me shrink. What do you do? Who are you? Because as a multi-passion person, it is always like if you could see like inside my brain, you could see like these inner workings of like, oh my God, well, should we pick writer? Well, should we pick artist? Well, you do work at a school, so you want to, we're saying school, you know what I mean? And it's so hard because like none of those things define you. You actually want to like be on a podcast where you can expound on those things. I met was somewhere with our friend Kirsten about this around this time last year, and was in conversation with another creative, and they asked me, "What are you working on?" And I was like, "Oh my god, that." Yes, I can tell you about that. I'm working on a book. I'm working on this. So I think that's so hard for creatives to do. But for the purposes of this podcast, I am a writer. I am a storyteller. Um, you know, um, have fallen in love with how I can tell stories with my life on social media, by documenting. I feel like I'm a documentarian and archivist, and particularly why that question always was like made me like wince was because I didn't have anything to professionally prove that I was a writer. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just something that you felt. So it would make me stammer because I knew that the next question was, well, what do you write? Well, who do you write for? And so I'm very happy now that I can like tell people that duh, I have a book. Yeah, it's called It's Probably Why. So that question does not shake me anymore. However, this experience of writing this book has been such a catalyst for like other things that if you would have asked me that last year, I would have told you that, I am a writer, a storyteller who wants to help people find their destiny. And while there are still remnants of that girl there, that's not something that I'm like very interested in. I envision myself back then and sitting, in this little space and doing consultations with scatterbrain creatives that were just like me, that
Mhm.
were, trying to find their way. I think it's so important when you find your purpose, bro. I think that like that really guides you. It like helps you want to get up in the morning, and it makes it easier to dismiss things like vanity metrics on social media. Like when you have a goal and a purpose, none of that matters. So it really invigorates me to help people be able to find that. But I, rather than doing that through consultations or coaching now, I would just love to do that through like conversations like the one that we're having, right
Which
now,
is
in hopes that,
one of the reasons why I was so drawn to your content is that because so many of your captions on Instagram sounded
hmm
like my old blog posts, like
yes,
a similar cadence. And I think it's because we're from the same place, we're of the
hmm
same generation. And it's like, I feel like we were probably kind of always circling each other back home, kind of, because it's,
yes,
like we didn't grow up together. But I feel like there's
hmm
something so beautiful and unique about Atlanta girls, like
hmm
black girls from like Atlanta, and owning that identity. And especially when I
hmm
meet black girls from other black places. Like I love a black girl from Philly or a
okay,
black girl from it's like we have a very similar, that black American kind of like understanding of each other.
yes,
And there was something underneath your words that I was just like, this girl knows me. And you have, when I read your, even just your captions on Instagram, sometimes they make me want to get up and go write something. So I love the
mm,
infectious nature of creativity. And I love that you say being multi-passionate, because that question, what do you do, freaks me out still,
hmm
because what I've had to come to terms with in the past like 2 years looking for a new full-time job is how much shame I had around the fact that my passions don't pay my bills, but
yes,
I still came
hmm
home from a full day very excited to do this, because to your point,
yeah,
we have a purpose, and when we have a passion, it gives you a fullness of life, right?
hmm
And during my day job, the things that like pay the bills, keep the lights on, right? Like the things that you feel like you're supposed to say that you do, like you're supposed to define what
yes,
you do
yes,
by what pays you, right?
hmm
You meet the people who are making so much money and they are so vapid. And you would think that, okay, maybe this is just your passion. Like your passion is this company, your passion is making
yes,
money, but that's not a thing. And they
hmm
come in and they're so empty. They're so
hmm
empty in the morning, like even if their name is on the door, even if they
oh
sign
yeah,
the check,
hmm
they operate in this kind of misery that I'm like, you
hmm
have to have something more to work for, quote unquote, than just money. Like
yeah,
you're not passionate about nothing, and
yes,
it's a bottomless pit, right? If it's all about money,
hmm
you can never have enough of it. So you've
yeah,
got to find something else to drive you. Um,
absolutely,
and to that point, I'm very curious about, because when I was reading your blurb about your book and it's these individual stories and the pictures that you put alongside with it, it
hmm
made me think about a book that I have been picking up and putting down for, I'm not going to say how long, um,
okay,
in search of
I'm with you,
in search of our mother's gardens by Alice
okay,
Walker, where she's like reclaiming and retelling the story of these different Black writers and creatives throughout the
mm,
years. And I'm so curious about how the female elders in your life, the women who surrounded you and raised you, how they impacted your relationship to self and your relationship to your passion. Like,
okay.
talk to me about that relationship.
So I first want to start out by saying, like, this book did not start out as a book about like the matriarchs of my family. This book started out as like a journal entry here, like a little anecdote there, And I got to the point where like I saw a common thread in here that all of these stories about my upbringing had to do with these women in my family. And so you investigate more, and I love the journey of self discovery. Like I love personal development. I like to understand why I am the way I am, right? And I started to think about some of the things that my grandparents had said to me, the women in my family. And when I talk about the women in my family, I'm specifically talking about my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother, right? And my grandmother used to say stuff like, and this is a chapter in the book, like, you don't look good unless your hair look good. And these are things that like I took with me, right? They used to tell me, really normal stuff like clean up around the sink when you leave from the sink, like with a paper towel. Don't leave no water spots and stuff like that. Never leave the house without your bed made, and cleaning the house before you go on a vacation. Those are things that we as Black women grew up knowing. But as I got older, there were some things that just did not make a lot of sense. So my grandmother used to say, well, this was all the women in my family. They used to say, you got to hang your hangers up all the same way so that if there's a fire, you can always just pull your clothes right on out. And that didn't sense to me as a child, but as an adult, I was like, no, I have to go. Why would I get all these clothes? Can you imagine me doing that? And so, there was another thing that my grandmother said. She, would tell me to take some rubbing alcohol and rub it around my neck. See all that dirt there? You need to do that. And then she say, now you take it on around your face and do the same thing. And then I got to college, and my college friends were like, you're taking the oils out of your face, like you're drying. So I have spent a decade trying to sift and sort through what helps me and what may have hurt me. My grandmother, my great grandmother, and her mother were sharecroppers. They worked their way up, got very good jobs and lived well below their means. And um, by doing that, they were able to save up for my college fund. Right when I was born, they were able to save up for my college fund. I didn't have to worry about that when I went to college. Okay, and so I just knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that these people didn't pay this money. Let me go ahead and go to college. And I got there and I was very lost. I'll pivot back to that in a second because I want to give you a picture of my very hardworking grandparents, but also my mother who majored in theater, you know, and, who is very like whimsical and very like curious. My mother is responsible for, exposing me to literature and museums and stuff like that. So I was always very interested in what you get when you mix that bag of very like well-meaning Black old folks from Arkansas with, a woman who, had the same upbringing under those women, but went on to, be the first graduate, went on to be Miss Howard, like what do you get? And this is what you get. And I wanted to understand that mixed bag a little bit more. So in answer to your question, that really like shaped my idea of like life and who I was and what was put into me to get to this often hard on myself adult. You know what I mean? Like I saw my grandparents work really hard with a real job, and whereas they had the money, they weren't like very happy. They didn't travel. They didn't really know much about the world. And I saw my mom, who strived to be an artist, who struggled a little bit. And so I came to this crossroads in my life where like, well, which one do I want to choose? And you'll find in the book that I chose a little bit of both.
One of
Yeah.
the reasons that I was so interested in talking to you is because something I talk about often on the podcast is this idea of not abandoning your socialization, but questioning it. One of
Hmm.
my favorite podcasts always asks the question, who would you be if society never got a hold of you? And,
Hmm.
in the journey of self discovery, I feel like everybody kind of starts with the four agreements. And the
Hmm.
four agreements talk so much about your parents are only teaching you what was taught to them and what was taught
Yes.
to them, what was taught to them. And then you look up and you have this mixed bag of
Hmm.
generational trauma, but also
Yes.
culture. It's
Yes.
all a
Hmm.
mixed bag, right? And I love
Yeah.
that in this book, you're parsing out what in the bag I want to keep, what I don't want. Is that why I believe that? Is that why I'm that
Yes.
way? And it's kind of
Abs-
it's therapy in literature. It's therapy in written form. So I'm so
Mhm.
curious. What is the inciting incident that actually made you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write this? Because every person who I know who has written a book, or even when you read someone else's autobiography, right? They talk about how hard it is to just
Yeah.
sit down and do the thing. What made you actually, where did the motivation come from? Where did the discipline come from to say, okay, I'm gonna do it? Everybody shut up.
Okay.
I'm doing it.
I'm going to answer this question in two parts.
Okay.
One, because I want to tell you what the catalyst was for the book in the beginning. Um, One, like a really bad quarter life crisis. Imagine going to school, spending all of these poor Black women's hard earned money and not knowing what you're doing. It took me 8 years to get out of school because I was just like sifting from major to major. I changed schools 4 different times. I did not know what I wanted to do. I just know that I needed to please these people that meant so much to me, right? And so it was a quarter life crisis. It was the depression that came following graduated because I didn't have like a really good resume. And because I would later find out that my gift is something that needs to be like discovered and really dug for. It's not as easy as like, okay, LeBron James, as great as he is, knows that his gift is basketball. He's probably always known that. He's got Michael Jordan and other people to a blueprint, right? People do hair, but if your destiny is helping other people discover their destiny, you got to work hard to find that. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't as apparent to me, and that brought on depression, like not knowing what you're good at and not being able to sell yourself. Someone told me that later in life that if you're going to get a degree in liberal arts, you got to be able to sell yourself. And the third thing was a shitty stint in corporate America. After that, and after that really bad job experience and getting fired, I had to come back to the drawing board and say, okay, like what, now that we know we don't like that, what do we like? What can we do to make money? What's not going to just take all of this drain our nervous system? Do you know what I mean? And so I spent long, hard days journaling and sitting down, really getting to know myself, and took all of those details and said to myself, okay, now what can we do? And that's how I came up with Yo Destiny Make Me a Shirt, which was a custom t-shirt business centered on my two favorite things at the time, which was self-discovery and storytelling. I wanted people to find their destiny so bad that I was like, listen, think about a story from your past, or maybe your favorite artist, your favorite band, your favorite saying. You write into me to this website and you tell me why that story means something to you. I'm gonna print it on a t-shirt. And that was how I came up with that. And it still stands to be like one of the best stretches of my adult life because I was really had my stride doing something that I love, that I had discovered. So that was that. And on another episode, we'll tell you more about how I grew out of that and moved away from that. But in answer to your question now, and how people sit down and like write books. Um, I read a statistic just before this podcast because that's something very interesting to me too. That 81% of people say that to write a book. I'm going to write a book, and 3% of people actually do it. And the reason is because of these reps that you have to put in. I saw Jessica in my brain the person that I wanted to be, right? I told you about how it made me timid for people to ask, like, who are you and stuff like that. So I remember that story. And it's happened a million times since then. And I'm like, that was enough for me to sit my butt down at the coffee shop every day and put in this work, not even knowing what it would, turn out to be. Like I said, it wasn't meant to be a matriarchal book or a memoir or anything like that. So putting in those reps, I literally, and I say this with all the self love, I literally can't do anything else. Like I've had a lot of jobs, and they drain me, they get on my nerves. But this is the place where I flow. And if I want to create a life where I can do it every day. So if that's the life I see, then these are the reps that I have to put in, whether I feel like it or not. So that's an answer to your question. Putting in those reps. That is what nobody talks about. That's the boring part. You see the launch, you see the success, but you don't see somebody sitting down every day and honestly quitting. I quit so many times, not
I,
doing it.
mm,
And then I would come back to it like with fresh eyes, like, oh my God, you wrote this. Well, let's pick up where this left off until I got something that I won't say I'm 100% happy with because that's just a perfectionist in me. But I got the book cover back today, the author copy from Amazon, and it's the cutest little thing. I'm gonna go get it right now. Please wait, because it's the cutest little thing.
I'm so excited.
Before coming in here, look at that real book. I found real books. And I'm like,
I
in
love
my
her.
mind, in my mind, that is how I designed it. I wanted it to be yellow. I wanted it to look like a playbill, right? That you
Mhm.
go and sit in the audience before the play starts, because that's what it reads like to me, a one woman show. It reads like a freaking monologue. And just to see that, all of those reps put in was like so worth it to me. So, yeah. Hey, girl, what you doing?
I love it. I can't wait to get my copy. I'm so
Mhm,
thrilled that you powered through. And that's the tough part of a lot of creatives will say, oh, you have to do it even when you don't feel like it, or professional athletes will talk about,
mhm,
you're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to, want to do the thing, but you do the thing anyway. And I
yes.
love that you admitted that, yeah, sometimes I just quit because we just do sometimes, like, and I think, especially when it comes to writing, you have to walk away from it for a bit in order to, you have to go and
Mhm,
live a life. And this is something that I
mhm,
think about. I might cut this, but I'm going to say it. This is something that I think about Chris Brown. I think that Chris Brown should have walked away from music a really long time ago and went and lived his life so that he could
mhm.
have more to sing about, so that he could
We
have
need to
more
hear
to
those
talk about.
experiences. Right.
Yes, because there's a stagnation. I think Lil Wayne, I think
You took the words right out of my mouth.
that's where he lost his audience. We all grew up, but Wayne is like they're child stars basically. Like
Yes.
as a
Mhm,
37, soon to be 38-year-old woman, I think
mhm.
back, like I look at how young Wayne was when Cash Money really first came out, and I think that he is like stuck at the age at
Yes.
which he became famous, and I think Chris Brown is stuck at the, and I think the
Mhm,
reason that like Beyonce has such longevity, and that even Jay-Z has such longevity, or people that we can see that they've had several different lives. We're all
mhm.
disappointed, in how Snoop showed up with this last election, but
Right.
these people lived a life. They didn't
Mhm.
just stay stuck in this like one place. You have to
Yes.
kind of like back
And
away
so
from it.
when you stay stuck, then your music is reflective of it. And those are two people who you named who I feel like are stuck in this. Like, can you tell me? I would love for Chris Brown to tell me, express to me how it feels for him to be in love, or something like that. Or I would love for Lil Wayne to give me an honest, depiction of what it felt like to be snubbed for the Super Bowl, or you know what I mean. We know about the relationship with him and his daughter. Talk about that, please. Please say something. And you brought up those two people. And I'm a fan of all music. But I am looking forward to seeing what B's album is going to be, because I feel like she could fall into that same thing.
Girl, I was just
But
talking
she
about
has so many things to talk about. It
girl,
would be devastating for her not to take advantage of that.
girl, I was just talking about
Hmm.
this with a friend. I was literally
Hmm.
just talking about this with a friend where uh, let me not say who the friend was. Very close
Hmm.
friend was saying, um, you talk to people who are smart. They have
Hmm.
intellect in this certain area, but once you cross over into more things about human connection, they become very rigid, and they can't
Hmm.
seem to. They don't have the intellectual rigor to have conversations that challenge certain norms as far as
Yes.
patriarchy and misogyny. And
Hmm.
I was so, I'm not going to say disappointed, because we're all people and we're all
Yes.
on a
Hmm.
journey, whether we're stuck in one place, or it's not linear, whatever. But when Cardi was really like crashing out, one of the times that she was crashing out over Offset
Mhm.
this past year, and she starts listing all the reasons that she's a good woman and why she's
Mhm.
a 10 and why anybody would be happy to have her. And all of the things that she listed were these patriarchal or
Mhm.
capitalist measures. And it's
Mhm.
because she's one of the few people, one of the few women, one of the few women of color who has achieved a certain definition of success by adhering
Mhm.
to,
Okay. Mhm.
like you are a former sex worker and now you're an
Mhm.
entertainer. You have become
Mhm.
fantastically wealthy and popular and beloved by playing this certain role. So you limited yourself to, well, I'm
Mhm.
just so petite and my, like my coochie don't stink even when I'm on my
Yeah.
period. That's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm. Mhm.
dehumanizing. Like
Yeah.
anybody with a coochie can tell you, baby, you can sneeze and get an infection. Hey,
Yeah. Mhm.
let's not count ourselves as less valuable for our humanity. So
Mhm.
I want to see her grow as a person as well. And I cringe a little bit that she's still, in this new relationship, because we're both fans of pop culture.
Yes.
This new
Uh-huh.
relationship, hearing her say, oh, well, my man told me not to. My sister in Christ,
Yeah.
at some point, baby, we got to grow out of it. We got to be single for a while, baby. Let it breathe.
Like I used to tell my talk to my daughter about this. How and this is very social of me, but also very just like a woman lover and like knowing what people need and like a lover of self discovery, right? But I had envisioned like Cardi B just like going off the grid for a minute. And when I say off the grid, I mainly mean social media. Like, you have some people that like disappear and come back a new person. And I had envisioned like a whole woman's retreat for her. Do you know what I'm saying? Where she's got on like earth tones and beige, she wake up in the morning, they got like a day of silence, we're journaling. Like this is like somewhere in my drafts where I had really written out this fucking plan for this lady because I love her personality. I especially like the delivery in Cardi music. That's my favorite part of her. But I am anxious to hear storytelling. That's what I want to hear.
I'm going to tell you,
Mhm.
I'm late to the Big X the Plug fandom,
Okay.
but
The biggest, the largest.
girl, I love his music. The production is so, what they're doing with these very soulful beats. And it's like they
Mhm.
start off, and it's like I feel like I'm in my grandmama's kitchen, and then that beat drops,
Mhm.
and then it's like
Yeah.
being it. I don't know. What was that club we
Mhm.
went out to on Spring Street? Envy.
Envy.
Club
Okay.
Envy. It just,
Mhm.
but I said that to say, listen to his album. I was going for a run the other day, and I got to a certain point where I was just like, "It's hot. I'm done running. We just gonna walk the rest of the
Mhm.
way." And I'm just listening to his album, and it is storytelling. And I feel
Oh,
like
okay.
that's something. Being a lover of music, particularly from the South, I feel like I'm like
Mhm.
a Southern music supremacist. Like I
Okay.
just like our
Southern
sound.
music supremacists. I'm gonna write that
I
down.
am like I prefer our sound to anything else. If you want to
Yes.
talk to me about something deep and meaningful, baby, you're gonna have to bury it in a real good beat. And he did that.
Mhm.
He snuck it in there on me. And I feel like even for like my favorite rapper is Beyonce, but after Beyonce is Young Dro.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I enjoy his wordplay, but I'm trying to think, have I really gotten like a storytelling moment from him as well? So it's really nice to hear someone have very good lyrical content and be a really good storyteller. But I said that to say, I'm with you. I genuinely want to see that
Mhm.
growth in her because she is not stupid. We can hear the
Yes.
way that she talks about politics and that she's
Mhm.
lived these couple of different lives. She has this collection of experiences. And I really want her to go deeper. And it's funny you say
Yes.
that about like a women's retreat because I would love to have, like, to host, to facilitate a legitimate women's retreat where it's
Mhm.
not we all gonna put on matching outfits and take pictures for Instagram. Like I really want
Mhm.
women, Black women, to be able to go somewhere together and
Yeah.
fellowship and walk away with stronger relationship to self, right? And I think
Yes.
if
Mhm.
you have a stronger relationship to yourself, then you can be of service to community. But if
Yes.
you aren't tapped into your own humanity, is so limited to how you can show
Mhm.
up for other people with whatever your gift is. With hers being music,
Yes,
baby, you got more you could talk to us about.
yes. And then you're easily swayed, right? You could feel um that's why people online get on her nerves so much. That's what they bother her because they hit these like pressure points because she's not confident in herself. She hasn't found out what her je ne sais quoi is yet, you know?
Her Jenna Saquon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, I want to talk a little bit about because you talked about your depression. You and I have such like similar paths.
Mhm,
So it always freaks
mhm.
me out when we talk because there's so much alignment there. Um, I know that like my depression led me to get the hell on and move to New York
Okay.
and discover,
Mhm.
start my self discovery journey. Or rather,
Yes,
it's always there, but we got to another point in it, right? Moving.
yes, uh-huh.
I got in therapy, I guess maybe like a decade ago. And
Mhm.
being in therapy, like traditional like therapy, I started out, like on a couch. Then the pandemic
Yes.
hit, so we,
Mhm.
communicate over Zoom now. But I'm so curious about the role that your mental health practices played in the book. I know you mentioned journaling as a
Yes.
huge part of being able to
Mhm.
like pull these things together, but were there any other mental health practices that helped you to better know you and to kind of solidify more of these ideas?
Well, wasn't just journaling, but something called morning pages, where I wake up first thing in the morning. This was popularized by
The artist
Julia
way.
Cameron. Yes, it's Julia Cameron in the artist way. And I hear a lot of people, like, especially nowadays, pick up the book and kind of like laugh at the idea of like morning pages. Like, yeah, okay. Or maybe they start off on a roll and then but I'm proud to say that that's like something that I have journals and journals and journals of, and that most of which I have never gone back to even read. I'm gonna make a little piece of content out of that. I keep saying that, where I'm just gonna open them up to a page and be like, "Whoa, like you are not the same person, or you are the same person." But that brain dump first thing in the morning when nobody is fucking up does something to your spirit. I feel like it's just me and God. And it doesn't feel like anything when I'm doing it, but the clarity that it brings. I mean, from the most mundane things to like what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight to okay, I'm starting not to like this job, right? This thread that like comes undone when you just put or when you have this when you know nobody is going to read this, you know, and you sit down one day to watch to write like, oh, that day at work wasn't good, and then you realize the next day you like, and it has helped me evolve over and over again in so many ways, like you know, from this job to the next job, or from this project, or conversations with people that like you know didn't sit right with me. I talk about a lot of my vulnerability hangovers, you know, in the morning pages, so that has been like a really big thing. Working out, you know, I know that is probably very superficial, but that really helps to clear my brain. Um, and I like the results that I get from it. So it's like killing, you know, two birds with one stone.
Okay, so
Um,
body is tea. Body being tea,
Thank you.
for a
Thank
lot
you.
of reasons, it's so hard to
Mhm.
believe that you are somebody's mama a couple
Mm,
times. And it's like the body
yeah.
is
I love looking good. Like, and now that I have gotten older, I'm 42 now. Like, I one of my goals is to, you know, be able to keep this shape as long as I can. And I'm getting used to have to do much for it, but that's become a challenge now. My metabolism is catching up with me. I can't really just snap. And actually, when this book is over, I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more disciplined in that because like I said, it's catching up to me. Exercise was a thing. Another thing I like is like doing nothing.
mm,
I really, really value spaces of time where nothing is due. I don't have to be anywhere because my best ideas come when I am laying in my bed with my laptop and my board shorts and crop top on with a notebook and my snacks and my remote. Those times really like restore me and really like fuel me. I really would love a life where I could really do that all the time.
That is also one of my
Mhm.
definitions of success is a very slow day. I love a slow day.
Yes.
Let me ask, and you can tell me if it's too personal, because I almost having
Hmm.
vulnerability hangover tomorrow. I talk you through it.
Hmm.
We both
Okay. Okay.
where and how do you find that quiet time as a mother? Because I was this close to thinking I was going to be on
Yep.
that journey last year with
Okay.
a relationship that didn't work out. One of my
Hmm.
fears, anxieties, apprehensions going into that possible phase of my life, which I don't know if
Hmm.
that's going to happen now. God knows. I don't.
Hmm.
But I kept telling myself and like my closest friends, I worked really hard to like this person that I am and to make a life that I
Hmm.
genuinely really like. I don't want to have to give up this person to become a mom. And everybody makes it seem that you have to, a part of you has to just like kind of die to become a different person,
Hmm.
and that you're just of service to your children forever, and you don't get a moment of peace. I don't think my mama has had a quiet day in 40
Hmm.
years because my brother is 40. And I'm so
Yeah.
curious how you make that time.
Okay. Well, for one, I don't know anything else. I had my daughter when I was 20. I got pregnant when I was 19. So for me, I've always been a mom. There was no life that I was like, well, I have to put this aside, for this lady that I built up. So being quite honest with you, I can't relate in that way. But I often think about that woman that, you know, was more about her um work life and goals. Because remember, I told you I ain't have none, right? No, just have a baby. I often think about. I think that I would be in New York. I put on my threads the other day, like I have been grieving a life unlived lately, and I think that life may have started in New York. So I have all of these visions, very quite frequently, of like what my life would be like without, have I not been a mother right away. Okay. Now saying that, um, the benefits that I have gotten and like the growth that comes with being a mother have, kind of outweighed that. But in terms of like time set aside, one's 21 in college, the other one is, um, has an iPad. You know what I mean? So I'm very intentional with my family about, let's do some family time. Like I just told you that, we sit and watch Love Island and stuff like that. But they know that like um mom needs time alone. And they for the most part leave me alone. Um but just as much as I love being by myself, I love being with them.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
Like, yeah, it's I would say that what you're describing as like the mothers, like I just have to die. I think that's very much in the first part of motherhood, where you can't go out of the house without like packing a diaper bag, right? Where like, oh, I ran out of diapers and stuff like that. I think that once your children get very independent and you all begin to like know each other, then that kind of like dissipates. Everybody go in their own room. You know what I mean? Um, so yes, a sacrifice, but also like a very beautiful experience.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
funny you say that because I found myself, Mother's Day was actually tough for me. Um,
Mm,
I wasn't expecting it to be. Like I got caught off guard. You know how sometimes I don't even want to call it a trigger because I feel like I have some awareness of a trigger. It was a unknown trigger, right?
mhm,
Um, I was in Trader Joe's just buying like my weekly bouquet of flowers that I put in front of
mhm,
my brother's picture because I can't
mm,
go visit his grave, so I put it, in front of his picture.
mhm,
And it was the Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, and the cashier was like, "Oh yeah, everybody's buying." I was like, "Yeah, I just need to come get my bouquet." She's like, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" And I was
mhm.
like, "Oh."
Oh,
And
mhm,
I found myself kind of having a moment of grief for the life that I didn't live. And for me
mhm,
it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like something that was
mhm,
taken from me because this person that I was very prepared to give up this for, right?
Yes.
To do life with him just
Hmm.
changed his mind. The world may never know.
Yeah.
And I think that we may always have those questions about the door not opened, right?
Yes.
But to your point, I think that there's so much beauty in all those choices. Like my sister is such, this girl is some College Park projects, and she so little got me roll. I got her little got me roll all
Mhm.
the time. This girl is such, you would think she is a suburban white woman from the middle of America.
I love that
Like, so I'll
juxtaposition,
be
actually.
on FaceTime with her having a martini at
Hmm.
noon on a Tuesday. And she's like, girl, we in Costco. We got to get this thing for the baby. I'm like, okay, and we both love each other's lives, but,
Yeah.
we don't
Hmm.
envy each other's lives. But I think there's
Yes.
beauty in all of these, experiences as women, So I'm so
Yes.
happy that you have been able to still have access to your creative flow along with that journey.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where, that matriarchal impact came in. Like, it's like, well, that was my upbringing. How do I want my children's upbringing to be? What things do I want to take from grandma and great grandma and mom? And what do I want to take from my own experience to, expose them to different things? And how will they come out? So I'm always keeping that in mind. And in addition, I have a situation kind of like you. I have a half sister who I met on Facebook maybe about like 15 years ago, and I love her to death. We are very much alike, but also very different in that she decided very young that she was going to be an expat. So she's been to like over 30 countries, but will often talk to me about, you know, I want a child. Like I can almost feel so deeply that like this is something that she wants in her life. And actually, she stopped her expat experience because she knew that like, well, if this is a life that I want, then I have to come, start that. Similar to these reps that I put into the book. Do you know what I'm saying? So we have been able to um live vicariously and like understand each other's lives in that way. And so it has given me a lot of gratitude, to know that something that I want really bad, which is like an established professional career. That's something that I've never had, and my sister's making like figures now. That's something that I have yet to experience. But and to know that she wants and not wants in that way, but she envisions the family life that I have just as bad as I envision the single professional life that we have. And that relationship has helped me to understand about, grass is greener type thing. And it makes me very grateful. And also I bring up again that my children are old, and I sometimes count down the years until the last one gets out of here. And this idea that I will be 50 and like still can like get up and go when I want to, and like if I want to go on a cruise, I can do that. So for me, these next couple years is being able to build a life that supports those days where I just don't want to do anything, and support the days this urge to like travel when I want to, you know. So they're still young now, and I'm still like preparing for that. But I like this idea that like okay, like I will soon, be the woman that I envision in my mind, the very free woman with and still have this family bond, you know.
Hmm. I love
Yeah.
that so much. I think, to your point, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for women to be in community with each other and to have
Hmm.
diverse community. Because, I know that there are absolutely days where my sister is like, you get to come home to a quiet house.
Yes.
And I'm like, absolutely. Because when I have actual, like, tough days at my day job, I cannot imagine dealing with them people and then coming here and dealing with another living soul.
Yes. And I work in a school, so and I'm responsible for 16 kindergartners and 5 days a week. And so when I come home and I have to deal with like even just more talking, I'm like, please, everybody be quiet. But my sister will sometimes say something like, I'm eating cereal for dinner. And I'm like, oh my God, I want that life so bad. I wish I could just pour a bowl of cereal and get on all my life. But no, I have to make a meat, a starch, a veggie, you know what I mean? Like, and then I gotta clean the kitchen afterwards.
Baby, I
So
be in here having girl dinner. It be whatever
oh my
I feel
God,
like that day.
I would love that. You know what I mean? So you see that there are parts of other people's lives that you don't envy, but you understand that, okay, all
Yeah,
right, that makes sense for them, and you appreciate your days where you can come home and just like lay flat on the bed, whereas I gotta start dinner.
yeah. Like
So
lately, I was telling my friend today, like lately, I've been struggling more with anxiety. Um,
mm,
I feel like I've learned how to manage depression really well, but now anxiety is kind of showing up in ways that I had never
what
experienced.
does it look like for you?
Oh my
Like physiologically, what, like, is it a
Oh, the
beating
activated
heart?
it's the activated nervous system. It's the
Hmm.
feeling. You know what it really is I don't know what's about to happen.
Yes.
I don't know what's
Hmm.
about to happen. And
Hmm.
overwhelmingly, I have so much evidence that
Hmm.
no matter what happens, you're a capable person. You figure it
Yeah.
out. Whatever the
Hmm.
next thing is, you
Hmm.
figure it out. But in the moment, I'm like, but what if,
Yeah.
and I'll get very caught up in the storyline of what if, right? And
Yeah.
today, so I've had, long story short, I've had a real tough time with upstairs neighbors that don't give a shit, right? So my
Okay.
sleep has been really messed up, and past couple of days it's been very quiet. I've been very grateful, but I overdid it with my melatonin last night. So
I'm a melatonin girly.
baby, I overdid it, overdid it. I took it at like 7. I woke up at 3 a.m. Like, where am I?
My goodness.
Where my mouth was dry. I was like, "Am I at home? What time? What day is it?" Like, very confused. Anyway,
Hmm.
so got to work and just to get through the day had a Celsius.
Okay.
The anxiety,
I'm also a Celsius girl,
it,
like very jittery, right?
girl. I was
Hmm.
like I felt like I was like vibrating like this.
Yes.
Like I
Hmm.
could have punched a hole through a wall, right? Could have punched
Yeah.
a hole through a wall. And I told my friend, I said, I don't know how you could have ever experienced this feeling and then give it
Hmm.
home to a child.
Hmm.
I would have ran away. I said
Yeah.
I would have ran away.
Hmm.
She was like, "Well, because what else you gonna do, my girl? You don't have another choice, babe. I would have found a choice. I would have got
Exactly.
the fuck on." There was no way, because I was just like, "Hey, friend, can I bench?" She was like, "Shoot." I was like, "Bitch, Disney," and I'm just so and none of this, and
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "This is how I look to me, like
Yeah. Hmm.
right." And she was like, "Okay, so this is just anxiety, caffeine jitters. Like, you're okay."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was
Hmm.
just like, when I think about the very human experiences, the thing that I look forward to is I get to come home to my clean, quiet apartment, right? So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like it's extrapolating like those moments of, hey, we're okay. We're
Yes.
okay.
Hmm.
But okay, I
Well,
want you to be able to go
yeah.
with your
Mhm.
baby. So I want
Yes.
you to give the listeners, the viewers, the Not Carrie Bradshaw family your top 2 or top 3 things that you really want people to take away from this book.
Okay. So very obviously, and I would love for it to like launch their own self-discovery journey. In between each of my short stories is a Mad Lib style, like fill in the blank, for readers to engage in, right? That kind of piggybacks off of the story they just read. And there are some very easy questions, like, name your top 3 cereals, or, what's a nostalgic commercial that comes into mind, to questions like, what are some beauty mantras that you heard growing up? Just like I did with, you don't look good and your hair don't look good. And I hope even just one of those questions sparks something in you that, acts as a breadcrumb, to something else. I also hope that this invites some conversation with like your family members, that are still here. I love my grandmother is not doing so well now. She's blind and bedridden and really void of that like sassy personality that really shaped me. But when I go home and she's got a very like lucid moment, I try to record her and ask her questions that I will not know. that's something that, when my great grandmother passed in 2003, I wish that I would have done a little bit more. My great grandfather used to go out in the back and like have a gang of men from the neighborhood. They would come in the garage and play dominoes. I wish that I had that archival spirit that I had today to be able to like take pictures of that and stuff like that. So and which is why I document my life so much, because I feel like one day I'm gonna want to look back on that. So that's the second thing. The third thing is um like I hope that they share it. Like I hope that they can come up with stories on their own. That was the real purpose of this book, right? Because I don't feel like I am like a super duper special person. Like all of these, we all have our own unique experiences, and I would encourage people to write them down. And you're writing them down for the purpose of like finding out like maybe why I am the way I am, or just excavating parts of your brain that have been untapped. So yeah, I guess that would be the third thing, to really tap into parts of them that have previously been hidden. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to get a copy. Tell the folks where they can purchase it. I'll make sure to put links and everything in the episode
Okay.
description.
So right now on today's July 1st, July 3rd, it will be up on my website that is not finished just yet. But up for pre-order July 3rd. I'm going to post on my Instagram exactly where you can find it, and I will be in touch with you so that you can provide those links. Finishing this book was probably the hardest part of the book. Anne Lamott talks about this in her book on life and work. Called Bird by Bird, where she says it's like putting an octopus to bed. Like once you put one tentacle down, another one comes up, and then because octopus have like suckers on them, you like pulling those suckers off. And so once I thought I was finished and I like did this hoorah, I realized that my cover was not the right size to be printed. And then the fill in the blanks that I worked so hard on did not come out in the same format. So I have spent the last 2 weeks really trying to um fix all of those so that I can have a good, product. And here we are at the end, final end, and that's the last little thing to do, is to put them up for pre-order. And yeah, I can't wait for you to read it.
I
Hmm.
will be sure that when this launches, we have a landing place for people to keep up
Yes.
with everything, and I will
Yeah,
promote. I'm so excited. I'm so
absolutely. I
happy
appreciate that.
that I had you and your Bob on the podcast finally. And I look forward.
I hope that we can do this more. Your conversation that we had a few years back at the Chattahoochee Food Hall stands out as like one of the most seamless conversations that I've had. It was just like flow. So I really look forward to this. It did not make me nervous in any way, because I know that you are a good conversationalist, and I've really enjoyed this. I want to do this again in person in New York.
Yes, let's have a New York Yap session ASAP. I will
Yes,
be
I love
here.
that. All right,
All right.
I'm looking
Thank you,
forward to it.
friend. Talk soon.
Thank you, Jessica. Talk to you later.